What's going on, everybody? We are here. We're back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. My name is Justin Schwartz, and I am with my buddy, DJ Switch PDX.
What up?
We're so excited to be back here today. Switch, how are you doing?
I'm feeling good, man. I started on some new meds a couple of weeks ago. I'm down 30 pounds. So like I'm super stoked about that.
You look wonderful.
Well, thank you. Stop flirting. But seriously, I'm feeling really good. This year has been a big effort for me to sort of, restart and sort of reinvigorate my career. I kicked off the year by starting a new weekly podcast, which is going great. Already picked up my first sponsor within the first month or so. And then on top of all of that, my local newspaper named me one of the top reasons to love Portland in 2024. So like,
I love it.
As if all of that wasn't enough. Now I'm here with you.
Yeah.
I can't lose this year. I can't lose.
Well, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you. And what we will tell people now, before we get into bringing in our friend Jake from Rane, Senior Marketing Manager, he's going to go through everything on the new Rane Performer with us. But before we get him here, we just want to let everybody know we're actually going to be doing this now weekly. We're getting back to doing our weekly live stream, the DJ's Guru Hangout. We're going to be here hanging out every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So want to let everybody know to mark your calendars and get ready to start seeing these mugs a lot. Starting next week with the Mastering the Art of Music Discovery, which can't wait to talk about that next week. But this week, it's all about Rane. It's all about the Rane Performer. And it's all about Jake Hill, Senior Marketing Manager, a very down-to-earth, friendly friend of the industry. And Jake, I'm going to tell you, I went and I went into your Facebook page a little bit. I watched some of your DJ videos. You're a pretty good DJ too, man. I mean, I would say a very good DJ. And I'm just really happy to have you on here today. And thank you so much for joining us. So welcome. And how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, guys. If you watch my DJ videos on Facebook, man, I haven't been active on Facebook for a long time, so I was probably a lot more attractive and youthful back then. I'm a senior marketing manager because that's how they are nice when they say old guy marketing manager. But I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk about the Performer. I've been knee deep in everything Performer for months and months and months. Feels like a kid of mine. I know it pretty well inside and out. Happy to answer some questions and interact with everyone. So thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I think the best part is you've got a Performer there. We've got multiple views and angles, and we're going to essentially go through every bit and piece. We're going to do a deep dive on this. And, it's really exciting to have you here and have someone from Rane here to actually give us the real lowdown on it. So I want to also say hello to everybody out there watching. Make sure that if you have any questions for myself, or if you have questions for Jake, obviously, drop them down below. We're going to be happy to answer as many questions as possible towards the end. So drop any of those questions that you have for Jake down below. And we're going to get into it real quickly. one thing that I think was interesting that I haven't, or that I was kind of following, was the launch process. So it seemed like the Performer was something, like you said, it was like the baby. It was like your baby. And it seemed like Rane, more than ever, took a lot of care and really launched this in a way that is seemingly now been very efficient, because the feedback that I am seeing is very, very good. So I'm just curious if you could maybe take us through that process a little bit. And I don't know if there were delays or what exactly the story was, but we'd love to hear it from you. You know, what was different, and you know, what happened during that process.
Yeah. And thank you. That's a welcome opportunity to talk about the marketing side of things, because I came over, I mean, I've been a DJ, and DJing has been my obsession since the 90s, you know, like I saw the movie Juice and I was like, I want to be like that DJ. And so it's been my everything for a long time, but I had to make money, and I made a little money DJing, but I, you know, went to school for marketing, and then I worked in, like I was a marketing, you know, assistant vice president of marketing for some a large credit union here in Tampa. And then so I was like on the financial side. It was really boring. Nobody cares about any of that stuff. You know, I think about that. So being able to talk about marketing side for DJ stuff, that's where it's at for me. That's fun. So the launch process, I'll try to keep it short because there's no way we'll be able to cover all that and all the features of the Performer anyway. But so how it works is we meet with our, you know, we have a product development team and a product management team. So we have a DJ, you know, product team, and I'm the DJ marketer. And so we're in lockstep the whole way. And hey, we're thinking of doing this. We're, you know, here's a mock-up. What do you think? And it's just like this whole process. And once they get the kind of the green light, like, yeah, we're going to do this thing, then it goes through this whole thing. It goes to the factory, and then they shoot what they call a OTS, off-tool sample, and that's like the very first one ever made. And then people get their hands on it. And then when we feel pretty good about that, they start sending out these pre-production units. And I have one over there. And actually, we filmed, you know, some content on our pre-production unit. The Super Bowl unit was a pre-production unit. Like that was pre-production unit on beta software, and we were like, put it on a Super Bowl halftime show. Why not? But so we get that, and then we kind of put those to the paces, and we go to the beta testers, and they have those units. I was a beta tester, and we're just going through everything, and then working with Serato to get beta builds for, you know, the Performer, the pre-production samples. So it's a lot of testing back and forth, noticing little things. And me coming from like a turntablist background, I was really paying attention to the platters and things like the crossfader and things like that. I really was into, and I would do tests like, and send videos, and we adjust. So that whole part of it, that's more product related. But then we start thinking about, mind you, this is like October, November. Then we start thinking about the rollout, and then we have a date in mind for the launch, and that's based on what we call an MP date. That's a mass production date. So it's like, when are these things getting made? When are they rolling off the factory line? And from that date, we have to take into consideration shipping, global distribution, enough stock availability so that people can have enough to sell. And so we take all that into consideration and put a date like, this is the launch date. So if anywhere in that process there is a correction, or maybe we say, oh man, we're going to need more of these things, that date fluctuates. So with the Performer, originally we were looking at April, May. And so that's why we love a good tease. And so when we had the opportunity to put it at the Super Bowl halftime show with we're like, yeah, why not? I always tell everybody the first gig of the Performer was a house party. It was the CEO of Monster Cable. That was his house party. And then its first live gig was a Super Bowl halftime show. And so we couldn't pass up that opportunity. So we did it, Super Bowl halftime show. And then it was like, oh, wait, we need more of these things. We need to make sure that all of our retailers are taken care of and have the inventory. So then that launch date got pushed out a bit because we started to tease it a bit. And then once we pushed the launch date out, we're like, okay, we're going to pump the brakes on our teases. But by that point, we had already distributed a lot to our media partners. We already distributed a lot to different artists. And so we had to set those guidelines of, okay, it's okay to show these things and show pictures, but just don't talk about all the features, because we wanted to keep some of that stuff under wraps. So at launch day, we had all the, the good information available to grab people's interests. And through all that, the whole process, then we're working on the I know the launch video. We're working on photography for all the assets for the retailers and things like that. We're working with the product team to get the manuals and everything ready to go, everything on the web, and just really telling the story of the performer. And then on launch day, that's when we start rolling all that stuff out. So that's how the sausage is made, as they say.
So would you say, you said you started the process in November, October?
Yeah, it was either October or November where I got, yeah. Yeah, where
Wow.
I got the first. Well, that's when I first laid hands on it. The process starts well in advance with the product development, industrial design, all that stuff, engineering.
Okay,
no, I promised
awesome.
I promised I would behave myself today. But my first question, I'm gonna get myself in trouble. I gotta know, because after that Super Bowl thing, based on the response I saw on Instagram at the time, there were a lot of DJs that were changing their shorts the next day. Like they freaked out over the performer. How do you know, as a manufacturer, how do you know like how many units to produce before you roll it out to the stores? Like, I know you guys had kind of like pushed the date back to like try and make sure that you could meet the demand, but when you have something go that viral and you have all of Instagram completely losing their minds over something like this, like, how do you know what the number is going to be? How do you know how many to make?
Well, that's the magic of the sales team. They have
the
they'll do
$1,000,000 question, right?
Yeah, they'll do their kind of forecasts and estimates, and we have our data from the Rane 1 and we have the Rane 4, and both did really well, so that we kind of know what to expect. But at the same time, we're meeting and talking with our retailers because we did bring also one piece I didn't mention. We flew some pre-production samples out to NAMM in January, and so we were showing. I had one in my room. I was out there, and then I had like the media guys come by, like Mojax, Carlo, Cleveland Terry, Kova was there. We always came up to the room and we're like checking it out. And then we had some retailers were checking out as well. And so we were talking with, everybody to get kind of the feel for it. And all that kind of adds in. And we're always listening, we're always paying attention to social comments and things like that. And, we knew that we had a hit on our hands. Just internally, the feedback was great because we're DJs too. And then we've also been hearing what everybody's been saying about other products and like, oh, if this had this, it would be perfect. If it only had this, it would be like a home run, best controller ever. And we're just like, making notes of all that. When you hear the same thing maybe 5 times, that's when I say, oh, that's something we should really pay attention to. And so all that come together, that's the community management side of things and listening to your community and understanding your audience. And so we gathered all that information. All signs pointed toward this thing's awesome. And yeah, let's not hold back. Let's make sure we're prepared to get this in as many hands as possible on launch day and not get it out just because we can and then make everybody wait, months before they can actually get their hands on one.
From the sales side, from the retail side, I will tell you, it was the best launch I've seen in quite some time. It was really great. And we had inventory and it was great. And we have information and it's been really great so far. And kudos to you guys. So I think now let's dive into this controller.
Yeah.
Let's see it. Let's just start off what I think people expect most from Rane. And one thing that I noticed when I looked at the shipping cost is this thing. This thing is heavier than, not that much heavier, but it seems heavier, more solid than I was even expecting. And I always expect a lot from Rane. So talk to us real quickly, and we'll start off with the overall chassis and build quality of this amazing looking controller. It is very sexy.
Yeah, it is a beautiful beast. And so, so it's 28, the hair of a 28 pounds, 28.2. I believe that's about 7 pounds heavier than the Rane 4. And somebody pointed out on a previous call, it's 7 pounds lighter than the NS7 III from Newmark. So we've gained some efficiencies there. But in terms of comparing it to current DJ gear, it's only a couple pounds heavier than 1200 turntable. And so it's heavy. It's a metal wraparound chassis here, the metal faceplate, die-cast aluminum jog wheels with, underneath it's a completely aluminum. This is painted black. And then the magnet assembly here. And then the center screen is mounted in there. And then, it's the Lexan top plate, just like the Rane mixer. So you don't have to worry about, graphics rubbing off and things like that. And the beauty of that, for those of you that don't know, any Rane product that has the Lexan, which is basically all of them, the graphics are printed on the underside. So it's like, like think of it like Lexan plexiglass, a very thin sheet, but everything's printed on the underside of it. So you're going to, in order to wear anything off, you're going to have to wear all the way through that Lexan, which is going to take a lot of time. But yeah, it's a solid controller. The pots and everything are of the highest quality, high torque motors. I mean, InMUSIC brands, when you think about Newmark, Den & DJ, and Rane, we've kind of perfected that motorized platter in terms of working with Serato. And so it's just really solid, really torquey, and you can adjust the torque to low torque if you prefer that feel. But overall, we gave it, the warm Rane sound, the signature sound. A lot of detail went into making sure the sound card was great. We made sure that the mic input sounded great. And so we just made sure that it has that Rane. If you know Rane, it's built on like overbuilding things, over engineering things, and making sure that it has kind of that Rane high quality, warm sound. And so that's really the backbone of the Performer and the construction.
Let me actually add to that quickly by asking you, why do you think Rane's concept has always been to what you say is over design or overproduce from the quality standpoint?
Well, I think it's just honestly because, from its roots when it started in Washington, it was just like that was the focus. You remember the MP 2016 club mixers, and any Rane component that was part of any sort of audio rack was always engineered really well, and attention to detail was spent on the sound quality, but also the build quality. So that just carried over. And then when InMUSIC acquired the brand, that's like the one thing, that it's like, man, there's no way we're going to touch the build quality as far as changing it. Like we're going to keep, that's what Rane's known for. That's kind of one of our key, differentiators in the marketplace is how well we make equipment. And so it's like, yeah, we're going to keep that going. But then at the same time, adding in some of the efficiencies of scale of having multiple brands under one umbrella. So we can add things from Akai, we can add some effects from Air, we can now do things from Moog, so it's like taking the kind of the legacy Rane build quality and sound, and then just leveling it up with different things. Everybody always hates it when I say it, but I think it's a good analogy. It's like the Taco Bell of DJ brands. Like you can take a crunchy tortilla and you can take a soft tortilla. Oh, we got cheese over here. Let's put it on there. And then, here. So we have all these ingredients. We can just build whatever we want with because we have these economies of scale. I know everybody hates that. That's the senior, that's the senior marketing manager joke.
Listen, as a fat kid, I can get behind that. Like, honestly, I'm for that analogy.
Well, case in point, I just had a Cheez-It crunch wrap. Like, come on. Just combining everything. So we can do that if we want. Yeah.
I love it.
This stream is making me hungry. So listen, you mentioned that you called out the Rane MP 2016. The MP 24 was my first club mixer.
Yeah.
The TTM 57 SL was my first like proper Serato scratch mixer. People talk about the build quality of Rane, and I feel like a lot of the folks having these conversations are talking about it in this sort of like esoteric sense of like, oh, it's what Rane is known for. And sometimes it takes some old heads like us to be like, no, y'all, like the Rane reputation comes from literally having Rane equipment be beat to hell in the clubs for a very long time, standing that test of time. And then that's where that reputation comes from. I think reputation is super important, and I'm really glad to see Rane taking that seriously, because one of the things I loved about the Rane 1 was the build quality until my first one broke. And then I bought my second one because I loved it so much. But like it's clear to me between the Rane 1 and the Rane 4, like Rane is still taking that reputation very seriously. And now with the Performer, like the build quality just seems like it's only continuing to improve, and it seems like you guys are continuing to take that really seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said before, we listen to feedback because we're only human. There's no perfect product, and we get as close as we possibly can to our extent of our knowledge. But like things like on the Performer, we did an entirely new up fader design, called them precision field faders, and that was based on wanting to actually wanting to do mag 4s in all the faders, but due to the proximity of the channel faders to each other and the magnets, it's just not really feasible. Not if it's 2-channel maybe, but so we did an entirely new fader design that would be like rugged and durable and smooth and still adjustable tension, but not a mag 4. And so it uses the same carrier as the mag 4 with just a side mounted fader, same rails. And so what it results in is a great up fader that you've never seen on a product before, because we took a lot of feedback from our customers and users and decided we needed to make some Rane quality faders that kind of match the Rane quality brand.
Here's some real live customer feedback for you. I'm not sure if it's just me and my obsession with quality faders that can be replaced easily without the need for tearing a whole controller apart and having soldering skills. But the Rane Performer finally answered this wish. The simple fact that Rane built this, allowing the user to access the faders from the top of the controller and putting in high quality faders to begin with, really signifies for the first time that a company is putting the user first and building a controller that should be relevant for a while. Truly game changing. I thought this was an amazing comment. I pulled right from the group. And, that's not, we didn't write it. This guy wrote it. And Scott, thank you.
And on that note, here, I have my PP unit here that I'm just tearing apart for various things, but here, I'll put it on.
Let's dive into the mixer now and let's kind of go through things.
Well, here, you can check this one out. This is what I'm talking about with the faders. See, it's, this is the faceplate off, the crossfader's out. So don't mind that. I'm tinkering. But wow. Those are the precision feel faders, and that's the faceplate off. My arms are shaking. Hang on.
It's heavy.
Those channel faders are, user serviceable, but are they user replaceable?
Well, not as easily as the crossfader. So the crossfader is made to be user replaceable and serviceable. The up faders, I've seen it from the back. I've looked at the guts of it. It's not like, we're not saying, hey, it's easy. Here, do these 3 steps and put something in your up faders.
Right.
But they're accessible if you really want to get to them. We're not advising that you do that. We're advising that you just adjust them from the top, but they're not designed in a way where, like, say, an innovator couldn't tinker with and come up with something. So, but somebody at home, you can't put a mag 4 in these. It's not designed that way. But at the same time, they're kind of future proof as far as not being just all soldered in there where you can't even do anything with them.
Well, and to be completely fair, I think, to the up faders also, like, can you name another device on this level that you can even clean the things?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like just being able to access those rails and be able to put some fresh oil and be able to get some dust out of there, like that, it at least is another level above most of the devices where you can't even get the faceplate off without removing every single knob on the thing.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, you don't just have to have no option other than sticking a straw in there and hoping that you're cleaning the right thing. You can actually get in there and see what you're doing. So it's
the straw on the air can that keeps spitting out the frozen whatever chemical.
Freezing everything. Yeah, then your straw comes flying off inside your DJ device. But yeah, the up faders, and they're adjustable too. So you can set cut in on these as tight as the crossfader. So you can even crab with your up faders, and you can set the 0 to 100 on the contour. You can reverse them. And as I mentioned, you can adjust the tension too. So it's they're great. That's one of my favorite. That's like one of my top 5 things I really like about the Performer, the precision feel faders. They just feel like they should.
I'm going to ask you that question at the end. What are your favorite top 5 things?
That's one of them.
What are we working with as far as the back of that bad boy, as far as inputs, outputs, line levels, phono? What can a mobile or an event professional type DJ expect on the back from the ins and outs section? And I have also some images here that we can show.
Oh yeah. I'm not holding it. It's resting on the table, so I'll survive. But so you can see here, we have 2 combo jacks for the microphone, so you can use the TRS or the XLR. We have 2 inputs, RCA inputs, switchable between line and phono right here with the grounding post for turntables. It's worth noting too, if you do a external analog source, say you're playing real vinyl, the main effects of the Performer will apply to that signal. And I think last time we were on, Justin, we did some live looping of the live stream audio, because I have you going in. You can see the VU meter. I have you going into channel 4, and so I'm listening in my headphone cue. Yeah. Yeah.
think you sampled me, or you sampled you, and we made like a live remix. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, like you could just make it, just say just do a little tone, like just go la
La la la la la la. How's that? Good.
Yeah, good. Oh wait, we'll do that later. Yeah, because I have you turned down, so we're not feedbacking. But anyway, yeah. So I could sample that, I could scale that down, I could do anything because you're just an audio source. But anyway, so there's the RCAs, switchable line of phono, 1/4-inch booth out. We have an RCA main out, switchable. What's kind of nice, there's a mono stereo switch here. So if you are running Serato and you don't want to mess with switching it between stereo mono and Serato, you can just switch it right here, hardware control. And then we have balanced XLR outputs, 2 laptop inputs, and then IEC power cord with a nice metal on-off button.
You know, it's funny.
Very
one of the
nice.
last videos I did for the DJ's Guru was a couple of months ago, and one of the controllers that it was like a breakdown of a whole bunch of different controllers, and one of the controllers we featured, I called out the fact that it ran on IEC power. It's such a weird, simple little thing to call out, but like, it's one of those little things that makes such a big difference to a working DJ that's out there in the clubs, out there playing mobile gigs. Like when you have a standard power cable connector like that, and you don't have to rely on that one weird little barrel jack with the box that comes with some controllers out there. Like my very first controller was a Denon controller, and it had the weird little barrel connector on it. And the first time I forgot that power adapter at home, and I had to pull out my little like backup controller, it was the worst.
Yeah.
So having that IEC, like, it seems like a dumb thing to call out, but like, I've literally been in that situation where I was so grateful to have an IEC power. Like I will be one of those dudes that's like an advocate for the little stuff like that, because it's that kind of little stuff that makes a big difference.
Yeah. And it's key. Like it's super like I can't tell you how many times I've broken that little tip of that, the wall wart kind of inline thing.
Yeah.
And
or
it's
the
just
pin
like
on the inside, the little pin
Yeah.
on the inside of the jack is always super weak.
It's like, what am I gonna do? Like, there's no Radio Shacks anymore. Yeah, so
Right. Bring back Radio Shack and stop selling cell phones. Another rant for another time.
Yeah, we'll save that for another show.
Let's talk about these platters.
Let's talk about them. Yeah, so as I mentioned, there are Mojax corrected me on the last podcast, rightly so. They're slightly over 7-inch. Like if I were to grab a 45.
Come on, Mojax. They're 7-inch platters. Like,
to his credit, he did talk in imperial measurements. So, like I put a 45 on here, and you can see because it's a black 45, but there's just a little overhang around the edge, so it's a little bit more. I'd say it's like 7.2.
Yeah.
Isn't that ironic? Even in England, they don't use the English system. Only us.
He's a class act, so he was being polite.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a little over 7 inches. The platter itself, as far as the aluminum, 8.5, so it's about the same. It's the same dimensions as the Rane 4, and then they come with a selection of these slip rings. I have a single white slip ring here, but it comes with black ones, it comes with plastic ones, and you can just layer them up however you feel. To find your feel is what we say. And so if you do like a plastic and a white one, that's pretty slippery, and so that will adjust the the spin back and the grab. And so that's probably one of your most slippery combinations. But then again, it's just up to you what you prefer. And in the middle, again, is that LCD display. And what's nice about it, we have multiple views, shift and the arrows will go through different views, album artwork, double waveform. And then one of the coolest features, I won't say if it's in my top 5 or not, we'll save that to the end, is the library control. So if you turn the knob, you go through your Serato crates and libraries. So you can just navigate into your crates. You can even add them to your prepare crate by holding shift and pushing the back button. And you can even see by default, it's BPM and key, which I think is the best combo. But you can switch that to elapsed time instead of key. And then whatever order you have them in your Serato crates, that's what order they'll be on the screen. So you even have the, in that picture you had up, Justin did show it. You have a day mode. So day mode is available inside the menu, which reverses the contrast.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. That looks.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's
that is very cool.
Yep, it's a little blown out on my feed because of I set the ISO for not day mode because I'm not outside and inside. But yeah, everything is chosen in day mode. And then inside that same menu, you can turn your needle marker on or off if you're using those physical stickers. And something I've seen a lot, and this is like, I did the same thing. There are stickers on the sticker sheet for your platters. They're in the lower right-hand corner. And it totally doesn't look like anything's there because it looks like this is just clear background, but this is a white background. Your platter markers, if you have a performer, your platter markers are on that lower right-hand corner. And then in the menu, you access the menu by holding shift, pressing the hardware software effects button. That takes you into your options. Wheel display is the option you go to needle marker, and you can turn it on or off. But yeah, so those are the platters.
Does the digital needle marker line up? Like, can you set a position and then have it? Does it align with the external sticker on the platter?
No, so it's through Serato. So if you don't know, in Serato, the needle marker will always at 12 o'clock. If you have a cue point coming up, it snaps to 12 o'clock. So that's a Serato thing. So if you have 8 cue points, your needle marker will not be continuously spinning. When it gets to a cue point, it's going to reset or go forward to 12 o'clock. That's just a Serato thing. Yeah. Which is honestly, it's going to be up to the DJ what they want. If you don't want the little white strip or you don't care about the needle marker, you'll be fine. But in this case, so if I were to line that up, it would stay there until I, hit another cue point or something, and then it's not going to line up with the platter marker.
That makes sense.
So since we're talking about the platters, I'm going to ask you this question. Other than the platters, what are the differences between the Performer and the Rane 4?
Well, let me get this off of day mode really quick. So really, again, the platters, but the precision fill faders is the other big difference. The external tension adjust on the crossfader is another physical difference. You can see the bump out here, and you have the external tension adjust knob. And we did actually bring it to the 4 right before, not this, but what I'm going to talk about next. We brought this to the 4 ahead of launch of the Performer, but it was first only on the Performer, and that is the stem level EQ. So you just are able to hold shift and you select one of the headphone cue buttons. And what that does is it enables the EQ to be used for stem control. So that's kind of not really an answer to your question because we did bring that to the 4. But we also brought a couple extra effects that we added here. The ones that we also brought to the 4 are a gated pattern effect called Choppa. And then we also brought in a mute effect, which allows these toggles to be used as transform switches. So we brought that to the 4. But what we didn't bring to the 4 because we wanted to go along with these precision fill faders are all the A-Track 70 mixer fader effects. So that means, you have a number of effects that you can, when engaged, you can use the up faders for linear control. So there's a loop roll that increases in and truncates down as you move the fader. There's ring modulator. There's pitch, and so your audio is adjusted, up or down with the line fader. And there's also a whole group of tone generators that you can select the octave, you can select the root note, you can select the type of tone, and they're all adjusted with the up faders. So those are the primary key differences between the 4 and the Performer.
Those are taken straight from the A-Track.
Yeah, totally. Same exact.
All those up faders are MIDI capable?
Yeah, totally are. Most things on any Rane controller are MIDI capable, and you could do some MIDI mapping, but we advise that you just go shift, hot cue, and you have a whole MIDI panel here that you can assign, including the parameter buttons. So that's
incredible.
Hey guys, for those watching who may not know what that means, what could you do with that?
Well, what I like to do is I like to, and I don't have the sound switch pulled up because I'm working on a different sound switch project. Can't talk about it, but it's going to be great. But what I do is map it to sound switch. So
many ingredients.
Yeah. I know. I map it to the Cheez-It Gordita wrap. How I have it set up is I have, if for those of you who don't know sound switch, you can have it, if you're running Serato, you can have it in the background and it's syncing with Serato. So everything, all your songs, your lights are syncing to the beats per minute. You can have custom scripted tracks that every time you play a track, it has a certain light sequence. but there's also override controls. And so what I like to do is I like to map these to my sound switch. So what I'll typically do is set this one to like blackout. This one will be play pause. And then I'll do different auto loop settings for these. So then I'll do different color overrides here. So you can be DJing somewhere and then you have a track playing or whatever. And then, oh, my motor's off. You can have a track playing and then you can jump over and hit your light cues straight from your controller without having to actually do anything on the laptop, which is really cool.
That's really, really cool. The idea of having lighting control just in a controller in general was something that I never really thought that I wanted until I saw a controller that had it built in. And I was like, "What? How do we ever live without this?" But then to take that a step further and go, not only can you control your lighting through Sound Switch and Serato with this controller, but you can actually just set up all the programming stuff yourself. And that way, you know exactly where everything is. You can set up whatever you need to. You're not bound by the limitations of what the software manufacturer decided you will be able to do with this.
Yeah, exactly right. And then another thing, I learned this because I have let's see, it's back here. A good old classic Rane 61 here. It has a joystick, like a classic Rane joystick. And I would use that as a fifth cue point because I use dicers and that was MIDI mappable if you press it. So
the dicer.
Yeah. But on this, and I hate to say, I didn't know this until very recently. So you can navigate this main menu with, we have a parameter button here, our parameter encoder. So you can push that and, scroll left or right. And the joystick, you go left or right to navigate the menu, but you can also push it. So it's pushable. So I haven't figured it out yet, but like I don't need two pushable menu buttons. So this would be a great little MIDI quick access thing for something. Maybe that would be a lighting control. But something like this, just know if you're MIDI mapping, most of these functions will still keep the original function. So like if you want a MIDI map to start stop to something, it's going to stop your platter if you push it. But like something like this, I might be able to MIDI map that because if I open up the menu, what's the big deal? And if I'm not even in the menu, it doesn't even have any effects. So I might MIDI map this one to something. The encoder does though. It navigates through, if you push it, it navigates through the effect parameters. But this little guy, that's a tip. I haven't told anybody that yet. You have an extra little open button right here with this MIDI mappable joystick. So
nice. That's so dope.
That's an exclusive.
Exclusive. I don't know how it's going to work. Don't quote me on it. It might not work well at all.
I'm going to just put it out there, folks who are listening to this. Do not MIDI map your start stop button. That's an important button. You're gonna need that one. Trust me. Just map the other buttons. Don't mess with your start stop button. That's kind of a key one.
In general, this is the official Rane caveat. Don't MIDI map anything that isn't supposed to be MIDI mapped because hearing it from social media a lot of times, a lot of issues like the helicopter platters we've seen in the past on certain motorized products. Once we had them remove their MIDI file and undo their mappings, stuff goes away. So I've had some really weird stuff happen because I'm like, I'm going to play around and MIDI map this mixer. And then things are lighting up weird. You'd be surprised at what you can do with custom MIDI mapping and signals crossing. So my advice, use with caution. I think you'd be okay on that button, but definitely just stick to the pads that are made for that.
I've got a couple of questions for you real quickly. My first question is this. Let's say I am using another controller, whether it be from Rane or another brand, and I'm using Serato.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a kind of person who I don't want to mess with a lot of changes, modifications. I kind of want to just use my existing Serato. And I'm wondering if I buy the Performer, how difficult is it going to be for me to switch over? Is it essentially plug and play? Is this something where I can use my existing Serato, plug it into the new Performer, and have it work pretty much right away? How is that going to work for someone who might be on the fence or might be a little bit afraid that their Serato is going to get totally messed up or they're going to have to start over? Or can you add to that, Jake?
Yeah, so that's a pretty easy answer. You're just going to want, that's part of the launch process when we work closely with Serato, because when there's a new product, any new product, it could be one of our brands, it could be somebody else's brands, they have to port that into Serato. So you can't have a new product that just came out that isn't supported by Serato, and an old build just will not. There's a communication that needs to happen. There's identifiers that they need to say this will work with this one plugged in. So if you have an old build of Serato prior to the launch of this, unless it's a beta build from us, it's not going to work. It's not going to work with it. I want to say at all, because you'll need to download the driver and you'll need to download the latest version of Serato. Now, to Serato's credit, it's not like I've been on Serato since Scratch Live 1.3, or whatever, like whatever year that was. They don't change things so drastically that you're going to lose anything, because, if you have all these custom MIDI things and you're crazy with that, they're going to carry over. Your database carries over, your songs carry over, cue points, everything carries over. It's just when they add new features like stems and things like that, they have to do a new release. And when we add a new hardware product, then we have to align that with Serato so it's supported in their release. And you'll notice every time you download a new Serato update, on that first window that pops up, it'll say we added support for XXX, and they'll list out the equipment that are added support for in that update. So yeah, you'll need I recommend anybody that buys a Performer, first thing you do is go to rane.com/downloads, download the driver and install that on your laptop. You're going to need that, and that's going to help connect the Performer to your laptop, but also you can open that and calibrate the crossfader if you'd like. But then make sure you have the latest firmware update. It's super easy to update the firmware. So just download that firmware updater. It's in the same section, update your firmware, and then go to Serato and download the latest Serato DJ version. And then you should be good. No worries.
But that sounds pretty easy. And I'm someone who is one of those types of people that doesn't like change and, wants things. I got a bunch of parties booked, right? I don't want to have any problems at these parties. That's where a lot of people are coming from, right? So it's like, all right, maybe I'll wait till December. But if I know it's going to take me no time at all just to kind of swap over, I'm in.
Justin, I was kind of wondering which part of that question was hypothetical, because that sounded 100% like you. Just right from the jump.
I try to be honest, this is I think a fun part. I love to do this with you, Jake. I think it's time to talk about effects and stems, and there seem to be a lot of really cool things about this that, compared to, I think, the Rane 1, now you do have internal effects on the Rane Performer. There's a lot really to talk about here, yes?
Oh yeah, there's so many. So there's 29 main effects. Let me get to that effects view. So on the Performer up top, you'll see just you can just barely see these channel effects. Now these are software effects with the exception of filter. So any external source, they default to filter. That's kind of the internal version. But these are Serato effects. So you will need Serato and connected to use those, and they will work on tracks in your Serato. But the main effects section is here. There's 29 different effects. There are 6 kind of quick access effects here. And by default, it's echo, recycler, scale down, reverb, and matrix, and echo out. But if you want to switch any of those out so you have access to it, you would just hold it down. I'm going to pick matrix. I already have it reassigned to hold echo because I like that one. But you just scroll with this encoder that I mentioned, and then you can select whatever. Like here's that mute switch I was talking about. And then now these are basically, let's see, I'll play this audio here. So I play this audio, but it's muted because the mute switch. So you would just assign to 3. And then you can use this up fader. I'm sorry, this toggle to, use it like a transform switch. And then you have the option to invert it. And then if you really like that effect and you want to keep it, you just long press the button, and then it'll save it. So anytime you boot it up, you have access to it because it's saved to your controller. And let's see, I was actually pulled up the wrong channel. So if I were to do this guy, and then you can use that. Sorry, super awkward because I have you guys in my headphone queue, so I have to turn that down to engage in effect, and then turn it back on. I want to show you this effect because it's kind of fun. Okay, so now it's muted. So now that effect is able with the toggle. So I don't want to take credit for it, but I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this, guys? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And so I was like, well, this is spring loaded. I always wanted to be able to like scratch with those switches, like the old toggles. And so like I got a scratch sample. And so just a nice little like thing you can do. And then the other effects, most of them do have additional parameters. Like let's do echo real quick. So echo itself.
Let me know when you want me to sing.
Oh yeah, we can do that here. Here.
Right. I'm excited. All right, leave me alone.
All right, just do I'm gonna see if I can just assign the echo to you. We'll just do a test. So go ahead, Justin.
DJ Switch is the man.
So I think scale down will work. I think scale down will work too. So go ahead and say that again.
DJ Switch is the man.
I think that's fun. Yeah. So that's we're able to do that. Again, the external signals, and then we were doing last time. We were doing the hold echo, which is I like to do for like live looping. But scale down is a good example of an effect that you have a lot of control over. So right now I have it on half. So you can change the beat division with the joystick. But you also have control over the scale. You have whole scale, penta, major, minor. And then a lot of effects, you can go into like echo, and you have so many different options, and they're all accessible. If you're ever in an effect and you want to try it out, just go to the effect and then just push this parameter knob. So right now I can set the high pass filter cutoff. But then I can push this, and then I can adjust the feedback from 0 to 100%. And then if I can also adjust the beat division here, and then if I like that combination and I'm dialing everything in, again, I just save it by holding it down. And that not only does that save that effect to the slot, it also saves those settings. And then, you go through some of them like, let's see, stutter out. That is all kinds of combinations. So you got 2 bars, 1 bar, 3 bar, but then you have the number instead of BPM, the numbers are the pattern. So if we're in here in let's see, we're on 1.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And so that's just different beat patterns as it stutters out, and I'll change the length to 1 bar. So you can kind of find your favorite, and then you can save it. So there's so many different effect settings, and
That's crazy.
Another one that people don't realize is duck echo. I love to use duck echo. So if I'm doing a stem split and I have 2 tracks going and I have the acapellas kind of talking to each other, what duck echo lets me do is engage it, right? Let's just nothing, right? Drop the fader. Echo.
Wait, hang on. So it only engages when you cut the audio track?
Yeah, it only engages when the fader, either the crossfader or the up fader, is off.
That's crazy.
Yeah, see, there's no up there only when I drop the fader.
That's got to be that MIDI control on the up faders, like we were talking about before.
Yep.
Where like it senses when you're at a position, and it doesn't trigger the effect until you're in that position. In this case, off.
Yeah, exactly right. And then just real quick, one other.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah. So we'll just do fader roll. That's a good one to demo. I'll turn that off, because one thing with fader effects, when you engage them, the way they're designed, since I have you guys in my channel 4 here, all my channel faders, when you engage a fader effect, they go to 100%, so that you can use the up fader not for volume, but for the fader effect. And so that's kind of the caveat. We give an option in the menu so you can disable the fader effects so you don't even accidentally select them, because that's something we were super clear about in the manual. And we tried to explain, due to the nature that they're designed, the only way they work is everything goes to 100. So if you have tracks playing and you have the volume faders down and you engage a fader effect, it's going to kick everything to 100. So just make sure your tracks are turned off before you even select the fader effect on your menu. And they're all easy to find because they say FDR at the beginning. So fader filter, fader pitch, fader ring, fader roll, and fader tone.
I'm not going to talk bad about any other DJ equipment manufacturers out there, because there are some great companies making some really great equipment. But what I will say is your team very clearly threw a haymaker here. Like they're not holding anything back. It's crazy what they were able to do with 4 MIDI mappable faders and the effects section from the 8-track. Like that's wild, man.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. It's like, it's cool to have. Like, are you going to use it all the time? Yeah, maybe not. But like, there's some like that fader roll or using it as a filter that might be fun to do for routines, or tone generator, especially with like 90s West Coast hip hop. You can play a lot of cool stuff with that tone generator.
The tone generator was the thing that really caught my attention with the 8-track mixer, honestly, because that's the kind of thing that, as a former saxophone player, like I grew up playing jazz and like I played sax all the way up through college. In fact, I paid for my first year of college with my horn.
Oh, nice.
And so having that ability on a DJ mixer to be able to like play along with whatever I'm mixing into is that was just such an insane feature of the Rane 78 track. And to be able to see that brought over to the Performer is like, I was already in love with this thing, man. Now like I almost feel like it would be irresponsible not to buy one.
It really would be.
Switch, I got a question for you real quick. Let me add into this.
Yo.
Not for you, Jake. This is for Switch, who is a Rane 1 user, goes back with Rane a long time, and has been a big fan of this Performer. We've been talking a lot about it over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see it missing anything from your perspective?
Jake just
like I did the Rane 4 one. I didn't
know it had. Like, dude, this thing's insane. Here's the thing. It checks every single one of my boxes. The one thing, my one major complaint about the Rane 1 is that I am one of the last holdouts because of my big, like, I have one big job that I do every year as a DJ. I'm the DJ and MC for the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. They plunk me and my turntables down in the middle of a 200 cabinet arcade that they build for one weekend out of the year in the middle of the Oregon Convention Center. We do like 12,000 people every year. It's insane. And I bring vinyl. And so playing vinyl with my Rane 1 is possible, but if I want to perform with it, I need effects. I need a lot more control than what I have available with the Rane 1. And so upgrading from that to the Performer seems just like a no-brainer, because now I have all of that external control. Now I have those effects, and I have the ability to be able to jump back and forth between my digital sources and my analog sources with one piece of equipment. So instead of buying a controller, you know, like back in the day, the Rane 1 was going for $1,500. But then if I wanted to have a mixer for my turntables, I need to spend another $1,400 to $1,500, right? So instead of spending $3,000 on two pieces of equipment, I can spend $2,000 on one piece of equipment that does both things equally well. That's the part that's the most exciting to me.
That's some great insight.
I'm constantly having to do digital. I'm constantly having to do analog, and being able to competently do both, and not just play both, but perform on both. That's the key for me. And that's why I'm so excited about the Performer. And I'm not like, I'm legitimately not just saying that because we're trying to sell units, man. Like, this is the thing I've been waiting for. This is the thing I wanted the Rane 1 to be, and now it's here. And it's right in front of me, and Jake's showing it off for us today. I feel like a kid in a candy store, man. I can't believe I get to do this today. Like, this is my first stream on the new gig. Like, I'm going to be doing this every week with DJ's Guru, and this is the first one you got me on. Come on, man. You're spoiling me.
You're going to be by yourself next week, so we'll get you back. Hey, Jake.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to chime in on that. You're in great shape because of the, like I was saying, when you hook up an analog source, by default, the two inputs are on the outside, 3 and 4. So if you put a turntable, off to the side, it's going to be aligned up with this fader. So it's going to be easy for you to navigate, add effects to it. You can tap in the tempo, so the effects time out to your analog source, and it has a really great Rane phono preamps. So I mean, it's gonna sound really great. And so I got the I put you guys over here, like I said, and I just put the crossfader over here, so I can just show you what the tone generator, just a little bit on that, then we'll move on, so we don't spend too much time on the effects. But the tone generator, I have it on 3. So if I were to enable it, and there's different notes, and you even have different octaves. Like you push the encoder, you can set the scale, you can set the tone type, and you can even set the different octaves.
Is it weird that when I hear that tone, I immediately smell marijuana? Like it makes, like, it's not here, but like it makes me think that I'm in a cloud of smoke for some reason. I don't know why. It's crazy, that West Coast sound, man.
Yeah, it totally is.
That's just you. I see a tiny trombone when I look at this.
I'm gonna get a little lower in my. I'm gonna get a little lower in my
trombone that I definitely want to play.
Yeah, but that's they're fun. I was trying to work on some routines and different things, and I was, I just look in Serato at what key it's in, and then I'm able to dial in the key of the root note on the fader tone, and then I can just be like, oh, like easy E, real, G's, and then it's like boo, wee, wee, and you could just like and what's nice with stems, if you want to practice, what I would do is like, how do I play that? I would just go into stems and just mute the melody, and then I could replace it with the fader, my own fader tone. I did that with Ice Cube song too, though. Yeah, West Coast hip hop. Yeah, so it's kind of a fun. Becomes like more than just a something to DJ and play music out with. It becomes like almost like a skill building type tool where you have those, or you want to do a beat juggle and you never really could because you didn't want to beat juggle the vocals. You can just take the vocal off, and so it's like things we never thought we'd be able to do in 1998. We can do now. It's amazing.
All of a sudden, every one of us just became Dr. Dre circa 1997.
That's what I felt like.
Got a little 1G in there. Got a little Snoop Dogg in there.
So before we get into all these questions, this one came in earlier. I liked it, and I think it kind of applies to what we just said. So I got a quick question, and I think this kind of is in line to what we're talking about here. His DJ Quack Quack wants to know, he's not a scratch DJ who just likes to blend his music. Is the Rane Performer for him? And I think what you just said, Jake, is insightful and carries a lot of weight, because if you're a wedding DJ, if you're a private events DJ, and you're getting playlists, it can get a little boring after a while, right? If you're using just a basic controller. And what you just showed me with the tone, with all the different effects, the moving platters, it now would give me the opportunity to have a little bit more fun with what I'm doing, make it a little bit more challenging, add the performance side to it. So to DJ Quack Quack and anyone else who may not be a scratch DJ, but they're wondering if this is for them, I think this is really an elevation of DJ controller, where it seems to be, to me, the most like a set of turntables and mixer, and then plus having that hybrid of all of the bells and whistles and features and stems and effects and everything else. So, doing events every week, if you could add fun to that while still kind of working, having, making money and doing a great job, if you can add a little bit of self-care and have fun with it and make it more enticing for you to do that, this is something that will help with that. You're going to have your hands on it the whole time. So I think that's just something to consider for anyone who might not think they need platters, but hey, it's something that's going to be challenging. It's going to be fun. It's going to really add something to what you're doing. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think, well, the nice thing is you have options. Like, of course you can mix with this, like people, that's how, they mix with turntables. And what's nice, if you like the moving platters and you can mix we have pitch bend buttons here, or you can do the nudge, classic style, or ride the fader. So yeah, you can mix with it. But if you're like, I don't really need moving platters, I want to save like what would it be, $500? Then get a Rane 4. You just don't get the additional like precision fill faders, fader effects, and the external tension adjust. But if you just want to mix, you're going to get a lot of the same functionality, because to me, the thing that really made me go like, oh my goodness, like DJing is new again, where it was the stems capabilities. And on the 4, we implemented the stem split. And so that was like, man, it's a whole new world. I could do, instead of having to go into acapellas for you.uk or wherever that site was, I can just make my own acapella. Like it's like, or instead of doing that little phase trick where you reverse it with the instrumental inside Ableton or by the 12-inch, it was like, oh my gosh, I always wanted this acapella. Now I have it, and it sounds good enough for me, And so that's really, if you're a mix DJ and you've been a mix DJ for any amount of time, like, how to mix, like you got that figured out. It's like, what makes it exciting again? And that's all these stems elements and effects at your fingertips, where you can scale down the acapella while the audio still, the instrumental still playing, or you can echo out the acapella and cut it up, and while everything's still going. So that's like, to me, yeah, you can mix on either one. I prefer moving platters personally, so I would rather mix on this if I'm just mixing. But it'd be fun to mix on the Rane 4 too, because you have all those tools still at your disposal.
I learned how to blend on a pair of 1200s and that Rane MP24 that I called out at the beginning of the stream. Like, that was the club setup: a pair of 1200s on cinder blocks and a Rane MP24 running the every single output to every single device they had up in that weird DJ booth, right? And for me, I can't mix if I can't ride the edge of the platter. And that's one of those things where, like, I don't think it gets enough love and enough attention, but having the strobes on the sides of the platters, like I almost won't buy a controller if it doesn't have the strobe dots on the side of the platters, because like I need that feel. I know I'm dating myself a little bit, but like I need to feel those bumps, and I need to feel as I'm riding that platter, because I learned to blend by coming in a little above the BPM and then riding the platter so that it'll settle back down into the groove. That was sort of like my early days learning back in, never mind how many years ago. But that feel to me is so important. It's why I hang on to my 1200 still, that and the vinyl obviously, but like that was how I learned. So having motorized platters, even when you're just mixing and you're not scratching, like that still to me is an important part of my workflow.
Yeah. It's all preference, to each their own. And so you have your options. And the one thing I found, because I'm the same way, I love that feel of the strobe dots, especially when I'm not, dragging it to slow it down. But I've been using the pitch bends more than anything, just because they're so convenient.
Sure.
And it's a little more seamless, because you're nudging a 7.2-inch platter versus nudging the outside of a 12-inch record. So a little nudge is going to go further, closer to the, the spindle. And so these are a little more smooth, as far as like, you're not going to have to be as, cautious when you're nudging to not give an audible, sound.
When I started using the Rane 1 regularly, I had to stop myself from grabbing that center pin all the time. But I did a video review of the 12s when they first came out. And like the 12s were a fantastic piece of equipment. The one thing that stopped me from buying them is my couple weekends a year where I need real records. And so like, the 12s obviously aren't designed for real vinyl records. That was like my one holdout, but that is by no means a reason not to get them. In a case like this, where I can plug in a pair of turntables for the occasion when I need them, and then not bring the turntables when I don't need them, and I still have all of that control and I have those options available to me. That's, I think, what makes this such an attractive piece of equipment to me, is because I can bridge that gap much more seamlessly and then just add the turntables when I need them, rather than having to make those choices. It's about options, right? And if you don't have it in front of you, like if you want the option between a motorized platter and non-motorized platter, with the Performer, it's a push of a button. If I was on a different controller that didn't have motorized, like the Rane 4, that's no longer an option. I couldn't have motorized platters on a Rane 4 if I wanted to.
Right.
So I think that to me is worth the extra couple $100.
Yeah, agreed. And it's also DVS enabled. So if you have your turntable next to it and you want to just throw on some DVS vinyl, timecode vinyl, you totally can.
Sure.
I will, for the sake of just clarity and honesty for everybody. The one thing though on the Performer, if you disable the platter You turn the motor off here, but then it just becomes a pitch bend. It's not a scratchable surface.
But is that a Serato thing or is that a hardware thing?
It's a Serato thing, but tied to the hardware because it's a motorized Platter signal, and so that's the way it's kind of set up. So when you turn it off, it's just I was experimenting with the this guy, the LC6000, doing DJ LC6000. That's a static, expansion controller, USB bus power, so you can just plug it right in your laptop, and it's a Serato accessory. And so that thing works great as a third or fourth deck. But the thing I had to do is turn off my motorized deck because like those signals were getting crossed. It had a motorized Platter moving, and then it had the static Platter. And when I had the motorized Platter moving, that just became like a really sketchy pitch bend. But once it turned off the motorized Platter and the static Platter was by itself, then that worked really well. So it's just it's a USB MIDI thing where it's saying, the motor's off, so it becomes a pitch bend.
Are we getting to the point where DJ equipment is outpacing USB? Because USB, like the longer it goes on, the more it doesn't change, right? Like USB hasn't changed a whole lot over the years. We're finally getting USB-C kind of, but I'm wondering if we're going to run up against limitations with USB technology. But by the way, this is the computer nerd in me talking now. This might be a little out there for some of the DJs that are watching, but the way that USB stacks devices and stuff, are we going to run into any problems if we start adding too many USB devices along with a controller like this?
Oh, do we need more to worry about? Come on.
Just something to, I'm wondering if that's something that folks should be looking out for if they want to pick one of these up.
Well, so with this, we're not there yet, definitely. So I ran, and it all depends on what you're running it with, especially with stems. I'd be more worried about stems eating your resources up than the USB, the bus reaching to capacity. Yeah. I was doing a lot of testing with this and the LC6000 and the Rane 12s all hooked together. Even right now, like you should see my laptop's ridiculous. I got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things plugged into it for this live stream on OBS. So, it hasn't been an issue. And then you have the buffer inside Serato where you can adjust. I can confidently say you're not going to have that worry as far as the hardware and Serato. It's just going to be what laptop you have. What are you running it on? That's probably going to be more of a limitation than the USB side of things. Even that LC6000, I was using it USB bus powered. I didn't even have an adapter plugged into that thing. I was just plugged it into a dongle on my laptop. Then I had 7 things plugged in. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I personally, this is off the record. I'm not representing anybody, just Jake Hill on this one. I want to see standalone. I want to see something like this standalone for a Rane DJ. That's my dream.
Something running Engine OS, maybe?
Yeah, possibly. Again, this is Jake talking. I would love that.
Oh boy, we just a rumor. Not a rumor. All right, Jake. We've taken up so much of your time already, and thank you so much again for being so gracious. Thank you, everyone, also for watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. We really appreciate you tuning in today. But is there anything else as far as the deep dive that we haven't addressed yet before we get to your top 5 and we address these comments? We have a few questions I want to have you answer.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Too much of your time, but is there anything else here in front of us that's really cool that we should see or showcase that our audience would be interested in that we missed?
There's so much, like case in point.
I'm sure there is.
I did so before launch, I was like, man, we should really have like a feature overview video. So I grabbed the manual and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do a quick video. And so I did it, basically I did it one take, and I edited it and I was like, this is 1 hour and 15 minutes. Well, I'm going to bed. No, yeah. Length, like the render time was probably 12 hours. I don't know. It was crazy, but, I was like, I want, new users to have some sort of guide. If they don't want to read the manual, they can just watch this video. And so I was like, yeah, previous ones I did for the Rane 4, I did it kind of scripted and it ended up being like 20 minutes. And this one was like 1 hour and 15 minutes because I was just literally going around and saying, this is what this does. And this is the shift function. So I put chapter markers. So if you go to the Rane YouTube page, you can learn all about the Performer. And I even did a second edit because people were like, your background music is too loud. I was like, oh, I did it one take, guys. I have one day to do this, but but I re-edited the audio. There's a second version up where the audio is more of a bed, but yeah, it's real time showing all the controls. So that's a great resource for somebody who wants to just get really intimate with everything about the Performer. And even in that hour and 15-minute video, I couldn't cover quite everything, but it's gonna take you through the main functions, stems control, everything. So my recommendations for the deep dive: get you some popcorn, put it up on your big screen, and just sit back, dim the lights down maybe, and just enjoy the video. Or you can read the manual, whatever you prefer. So I can't really dive into all that, but maybe a lot of these I'll probably answer in the top 5, Justin, because those are the ones that those are the ones I think would wow, because they wowed me. So
let's do it.
I like kind of like what we were talking about, like having those options available, like basically everything that you could ever want in terms of an option for your performance, it's on this device. So if you don't want to use it, great. If you do, it's there for you, and you can choose to use or not use whatever, because it's all there. Like I can't think of a single thing that they left out here. That's the crazy part to me.
Yeah, I mean,
let's hear it, Jake.
All right, top 5. I actually have a top 5. I did a video, a top 10. I don't want to be inconsistent, so I will tell you what they are. Let me flip to my little.
I love it.
Yeah, little yellow pad if I can find it. Not reveal any secret.
This
notes.
actually looks like the top 5 features of you, Jake. The way I wrote that.
Yeah. Oh God, I don't even want to go there. All right, here they are. See, okay. I put number 5, and I might even throw in some honorable mentions. Honorable mention, I like that duck echo effect. And this is based on things that, because I've had this for a while, and I had the Rane 4 for a while, and I was doing a lot of different things with them, DJing a lot with them. And I found things that I like, are like my go-to that I use a lot. And that kind of makes up my top 5. So if you're similar to me, you're going to like them. If you're a different DJ, you might like some. Anyway, so honorable mentions are the library view. This is super handy, like being able to not have to stare at my laptop, especially if I'm working through a crate for a gig, and I can put them in order as far as BPM and key. This is amazing to me. And then if I'm navigating to another deck, I can do the same thing, and it's great. So that's one of my honorable mentions. The as I mentioned earlier, the duck echo effect, where you drop the fader and you can echo it out. That's one of my top faves. I love that hold echo, which is that live loop. And I think that's really cool because you have the option to set it to, let me select it here, 4, 8, 16 beats. So like you can do a wordplay loop where you can just use the hot cues, engage that live echo, and then you can just ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, and then it'll just keep going over and over. You can drop all the faders, and then it just continues. Then you can add to it, and you have like live looping. Then you basically have, 4 additional decks to work with. So you can do some cool stuff with that. That's our honorable mention. And then save loops. That's my other honorable mention. Then I'll get in the real top 5. Save loops are really cool to me because they're right here. I don't have any for this track, but if I were to set one here, now this is a save loop. So what this means is that this will engage or exit, but then I can save it and name it in Serato, and then I can just do shift and jump to the beginning of that loop. I could be in multiple loops, jump to the beginning of the loop just by holding shift. So I use that a lot actually, because then I can label like bass loop, tone loop, and then I know what loop that is, or if there's a word play. Okay. All That's honorable mentions. Yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah.
Last honorable mention I have, crossfader assignment switches. You can't see them on this view, but any channel you can assign to left, right, or through in the crossfader. So I can have all channels on left, all channels on right, crossfader disabled altogether. Question we got a lot was like, does it have a hamster switch? It has 4 of them. Those are your hamster switches, so you can reverse the crossfader if you'd like. So I use that for one of my top 5 spoilers is stem split, because you can put the instrumental on one side and cut up the vocal. On to the real top 5. Number 5, it doesn't sound very sexy, but it's super useful. I mentioned it already. It's the pitch bend buttons, because they are right there. And if I'm mixing multiple tracks and I need to do some crazy stuff here with the up faders and things, especially if I'm stem splitting, it's easy for me to nudge things quickly versus having to nudge the platter. So pitch bends, that's number 5. Let's see. Number 4 may surprise you. It's not higher up. That is a stem split. And how I like to use stem split, I'll do it. Let me grab a drink. Okay. What I like to do, I'll say what we're looking at now. Let me go to a Serato view. I think I have it's perfect for this. All right. So we have 2 tracks. Let me expand this to 4 tracks.
Why not 8?
Let me hook up another laptop.
Why not 12?
So we are on, as you can see in this Serato view, we are on 3. Or, I'm sorry, 1. Let me exit this save loop. And I'm going to turn my mic off for this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit stem split. And you're going to see that this single track gets split across 3 and 1. And so the instrumental goes on one, acapella goes on the other. And so that it split them automatically, and then we're, independent. And why that's important, I can add effects to the vocal or the instrumental.
Bring it back my way. Bring it back, yeah. Bring it back, yeah. Bring it back my way. Bring it back my way. Bring it back, yeah. Bring it back, yeah.
What just happened?
Yeah, so you have a control, and what I like to do with it, and why I like it so much, is you can put them back together. Just hit stem split button again. Now they're back on 1. But how I like to do it is I like to grab, when they're stem split, like right now, they're split across 2 channels. So anything I do, it affects both. See that everything's moving together? Cue points. Everything is together. Now, what I like to do is instrumental's always on 3 on this side. And you can tell by the icons on the bottom, you won't see it from this view, but they line up with the stem split buttons. So instrumental's on 3. So what I'm going to do is put that through so the crossfader doesn't affect it. I'm going to make sure acapella, which is on 1, is on the left side of the crossfader so I can cut it. And then if I were to stem split it, I can just grab that acapella by pushing that button. And so you can cut up acapellas and instrumentals, and you can stick them back together just by stem splitting them again.
That's crazy. That's like a manual slip mode.
Yeah, and there's slip mode too, but when I and that wasn't a very good scratch example, but I like to lift my hand off the platter. And so you can do that with slip mode, really easy. But I'm not really a fan of that style. I like to chop with the crossfader and bring it back. So as long as you don't leave your hand off the platter, you can slip mode either the acapella or instrumental. And then you just, whatever you select on your buttons, when you hit stem split again, it goes back to snaps to that. So it's like an instant double. It's like an instant double that automatically applies instrumental and acapella, and it locks them together in a dual mode until you take one over. And the fact that you can add different layers and effects and things like that to either the instrumental or acapella, that's why it's so useful for me. And I really like to just cut it up and scratch it up. So that's what did I give that? I gave that number 4.
That was number
4. Yeah.
Jake, I started DJing in 1998, and this is absolutely breaking my brain.
Yeah, it's wild, right?
It's crazy.
You used to have to take a song and run it through a mixer and run it through 7 different things to try to get that to happen. If you didn't have the acapella.
About the early days, I don't want to talk about.
Yeah,
that's a lot
it was
of trauma there that we don't.
It would be like 6. I want to drop an acapella, and it's going to take me 6 hours to do it. Yes, I agree with you, and I'm with you. Switch, it's amazing. It's really crazy. Amazing.
Yeah, it's cool, and you can do things like if you want a DJ friendly edit, you can just, and say you have like a song that doesn't start out with any sort of instrumental, you could just have, it's stem split. And then so, well, I have one that's actually teaser for my next favorite item, and I won't tell you yet, but the OLED screens, hint, hint, will give you the opportunity to label your cue points. And so I know chorus starts here. So if I wanted to mix in, I didn't have a track, I could stem split it, and I'm playing, say I'm mixing in over the outro of another track and I don't want to clash vocals. I'll just turn down my deck number 1. I'm mixing it in, and then like, okay, I'm about ready for the drop. All right, do it again. So you basically have any track can be an acapella out or an acapella in or an instrumental in, and you can just jump around with your cue points to create your own intros just by dropping out the acapella or instrumental. So yeah, pretty handy stuff.
Sick. That's so sick.
I love it. And that I teased it, but number 3, the OLED screens, man, these things are so handy. Let's see if I have a better view. No, you don't want to see that one. So these OLED screens, you can label inside Serato. You can label your cue points or loops or whatever. It's going to be hard to see in this view, but any of those colored sections where your cue points are, you just double click in there and you type whatever, and that automatically gets put on the OLED screens of the performer. So a lot of times, if it's a certain part, like a drum outro or like chorus starts or chorus 2, or there's like a specific phrase that you want to capture for like a word play, you can see it on these. So you don't have to remember like where they are. Even if you want to do like a tone play and you wanted to cheat and just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you need to hit them in that order, you can put those on there. And the same thing for your saved loops, like I mentioned. But when it comes down to things like your sampler, you can see all your sample names. So you know where your samples are. You can see the stem elements, vocal melody bass drums, and you can see all the stem effects on the bottom. And it's just really, really handy, because then you don't really have to look at your laptop, because you can see like, oh yeah, that's the intro, that's beat 1. And that's super handy for any sort of DJ. Honestly, it's really handy if you're trying to do a routine or something like that. So that's number 3. Those OLED screens are amazing. When you're on like a roll, you can see the beat divisions. And even if you're using your parameters to adjust your roll divisions on the performer, you can see what you're adjusting them to. So yeah, super handy OLED screens. Top 2. These are going to be like, I'm not going to surprise anybody with these. Top 2, precision fill faders. Like, to me, that's number 2 for me personally. Like, that's literally, I think, the first thing I touched on it when I opened the performer that I got on that original sample. That's like, if you look at most DJs, they walk up to a controller or something. That's like, they may do crossfader first or faders first, up faders first, but it's one of those first. They're just, that's what they touch. Then they might do this, Yeah. But I immediately touched them. I was like, yes, guys, this is it. Like, this is what I wanted, because I'm accustomed to, like we were saying earlier, like the TTM 57 SL, or my first was a 56. And that's how I think a Rane upfader should feel.
Yeah.
And that's how they felt. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I popped off the faceplate. You can adjust it with the magnets, but out of the box is like, guys, this is great for me. So that was like awesome.
On those precision fill faders, do you think, and maybe this is a bit speculative, and feel free to decline to answer if you choose, but do you think we're going to see those faders on future Rane products?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give a definitive answer, but I would think it would make sense. That's my official answer.
Now that you have them, why wouldn't you use them, right?
Yeah, they're awesome. Like, it's like the Gordita. Like, hey, let's just not use this shell for anything else. It's just too good. Let's just leave it alone. Like, why wouldn't you use it for something else? Of course, like, that only makes sense. But I'm not saying yes or no. It would just make sense.
I'm waiting for a drum roll.
Question. I'm gonna wait for after we get through number 1. But I did think of a question, and then of course we've got a couple questions in the chat we should probably get to. But
yeah,
I've got to know, Jake. What's your number 1? What's your favorite?
No surprise
the one
here.
Thing here. What is it, man?
What do you guys think it is?
Motorized platters?
Yeah, it's the platters. They're just too good. They're just too good not to be number 1. I mean, they're so good.
I coming from turntables, man, I love my center pin. I love the center pin. I learned how to get really comfortable with the center pin on the Rane 1 and on the Rane 12s, but Like it would take a lot of functionality and a lot of like reasons for me to give up that center pin. And with that screen in the middle of that platter, man, I think you guys nailed it. I think you finally found the thing that would make me be okay with giving up that center pin. Those screens are phenomenal. The platters are phenomenal.
Yeah, thanks. And that's where I'm at too, because it's like not only do they feel great and they're super responsive and they're high torque, and you can adjust it to low torque. I set it there for one time. I'm like, hey, this is cool too, but why would I? High torque felt better.
Right.
But all the information, not only do you have the waveform, and that also follows your Serato settings. So if you zoom in your Serato settings, it'll adjust on here too. But you can see your full track overview to the left. You can see the waveform from the other deck moving on the right. You can see your waveform in the middle. But then you can also see your beat jump size. You can see your BPM. You can see your pitch range and pitch percentage that you currently have set. You can see your loop length, and you can, as you're pushing the buttons, you can see where you're at, 814 or 816.4. And so I know when I hit loop, it's an 8-bar or 8-beat loop. You even see your key and elapsed time. So like there's so much information. And then again, I mentioned it before, I'm kind of looping or kind of bundling these all together. That center display with the library view, like that is just too handy. Combined with just the overall quality and feel. I mean, they're so solid, and yeah, I love them. They feel great. So that's why it's my number one, because it's the thing I first fell in love with. And then right after that, there's the faders. So number one, moving platters. They're amazing.
Yeah, you guys nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
All right. Well, we promised questions to be answered by Mr. Jake Hill. So we've got some really good ones. Thank you for facing forward for us, Jake. First, we have some comments. We'll throw those out there first. We'll say hello to Joel Mojica. What's going on, Joel from Massachusetts? How are you, my friend? Thanks so much for tuning in. Local Productions. I think that might be Nick. What's up, Nick? We're very happy to put this together for you guys. All right, here we got a hashtag ask. What is the difference between pre and post meter on the volume meter?
Excellent question. So basically what that means is you can adjust it so that one of the options, they're both available in the menu. One of the options, you see the output in the VU meters from the signals, the channel signals themselves. And so no matter what you adjust the main output, it doesn't really have effect on it. And the other option is, as you adjust the main output, you see that level in the meters. So you have the option to adjust that. So if you want to make sure you're seeing the main output only, or if you want to see the channel output not affected by the main volume knob, you have the option to switch those. I don't know. It doesn't bother me either way. But I'm sure some DJs have a preference.
All right. Thank you very much for that question, Jay. Thanks for tuning in. Jace, can you loosen the screw on the crossfader to make it lighter like the up faders? I think you already.
Yeah, I totally can. I actually have one of these out for my tinkering purposes. But it's yeah, you have the tension adjustment here. Yeah, this is the Mag 4.
Oh, that's the actual fader.
This is the crossfader. Yeah, no,
okay.
It's the crossfader. So you have a tension adjustment screw here, and you can adjust that, or you can take that out all the way completely. And then in addition, you have the tension adjust on the front. And how that works, it basically, you have the crossfader on the rail and you have a magnet there. You can adjust the tension, but you can adjust that front tension screw. And what that does is it puts a physical like really soft felt barrier, and it pushes a little pressure on the side of the crossfader so that it has a little friction from the mixer itself. So that's how the external tension adjust works. So you can adjust it that way, or you can adjust it with a screw. So you can, and at its loosest, it's almost, to be honest, it's a little bit lighter than the precision fill faders, but not by much, because it is same design. The precision fill faders do have a physical fader mounted on a vertical circuit board, a horizontal fader. So that's one more point of physical contact for the carrier. So that's what makes it slightly less light, but man, it's pretty close.
Thank you very much. And Jace, thank you so much for your question. We've got a few more from Ryan. David, can you talk about what the externally threaded 1/4-inch outputs and externally threaded 1/4-inch headphone jack is made that way for?
Yeah, that's a good question. I honestly, Ryan, I never really thought about it being threaded, and it totally is. Like, I think that's just one of the components. Because if you look, well, you can't see on mine, it has a 10 millimeter nut over the jack. So I think it's not really threaded for headphone connections. I think it's threaded for the connection to the performer itself.
So
Speculation.
I certainly don't work for Rane, but I can actually address this just because I've been an electronics nerd for so long. The thing about 1/4-inch jacks, XLR jacks, combo jacks, any of that kind of thing is that when you build an electronic device, you know, it would be expensive, it would be time consuming, and it would be frankly irresponsible for Rane to design a 1/4-inch jack just for this device. What they did was the more responsible and the more financially viable thing, which is go to somebody who's an expert at making 1/4-inch jacks and going, I'll take a few thousand of those, please. And then they just bolt them onto the device. It's kind of a standardized part, and it hasn't changed in 60 years. And so
is that why the zipper on my pants has a different logo than the back of the pants?
yes, because your zipper hasn't changed in 60 years.
They went to a zipper guy.
But what you essentially have is a standardized jack that just bolts on from, so it feeds through the hole in the side of the casing for the controller, and then it's got that 10 millimeter nut that Jake called out that just tightens it down. The nice thing is, A, you get a high quality part, B, you get a standardized part, and C, you get an easily serviceable part. So now instead of having to charge you $500 of bench time to swap that thing out, you can get a new part repaired by a repair center for about 1/5 the price.
Yep, and I just verified. I'll never look at those headphone jacks the same way ever again. I just verified. I got a 72 Mark II, 61, and a Atrek 70. They all have the threaded 1/4-inch jack. So the 1/8-inch doesn't, though. It's just like a thing. But yeah. And I'm looking around, all these controllers. Yeah, they all have it. So thank you for that. I think the booth outputs are the same way too, probably for exactly those same reasons.
A lot more people knew about that kind of thing when there was a Radio Shack around. I mean, that was
I know. Yep.
That was a lot more common knowledge back then.
Yeah, really. It's all them. Hey, DJ Yoshi. What up, Jake?
Hey, what's up, Yoshi? Yoshi, one of the beta testers, played a huge part in the development of the Performer. So yeah, big shouts to Yoshi.
Well, I know that name. What's up, Yoshi? Christian Simek, salute from Austria. All right.
Hello.
And Jake, I'll let you take this one. From Eric Washington. I would like to know when the Rane Performer will be working with Virtual DJ.
I would too. As of right now, it is just a Serato controller. I don't know any more than you know on that one. Only works with Serato, nothing else at the moment. But we'll see what the future holds. Yep.
Thank you for addressing that. What's up to DJ Meklo coming in from Twitch? We got a pulse on Twitch. I love it.
Well,
all right.
That's my buddy Backlow out here. He's a chiptune and synthwave producer, and then he also is one of my DJs that works with me at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. So, and also he was one of the best men at my wedding. So, it's one of the greatest dudes ever. I love that guy.
So I'll take no credit for him.
All
right. Well, listen. Yeah, you got a question, right?
Yeah, I had one question that I was gonna kind of wait until we got to the end here. And Jake, I know this got asked a lot when the Rane 4 came out, but we have a new device here, which means a new opportunity, which means I got to ask again. Man, I play so many venues, and I've had so many sound guys that take one look at my Rane 1 and go, "Oh my God, XLR booth."
Yeah.
Are we ever going to see an XLR booth on another Rane device, or is that just too impractical?
Well, I don't think it's impractical. It was like it was like, this would be cool to have. And then it's like, do people really use it? And I think it's one of those things. It's like XLR booth is awesome, but is it overkill? And we love overkill. So if we hear tons of DJs saying, man, it'd be perfect if it only had XLR booth output, then we might be like, yes. But yeah, well, to be determined. Yeah.
As much as I love my XLR booth outs on the Rane 1, that's one of my favorite features when I play the bigger spots. But like, I think the bigger thing about that is that it kind of skips over the whole process of converting through a DI box and having to adapt to whatever board they're running and that kind of thing. So like just having the opportunity to sort of skip that step and meet them at their board on their, you know, whatever, whoever's running front of house or whatever. I think that's the thing that is really kind of behind the, oh my God, an XLR booth out.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
then we don't have to adapt down. We don't have to DI down, like whatever.
If you bring them a Prime 4 Plus, it'd probably blow their mind. Like there's so many XLR outputs on the back of the thing.
I would never.
The Prime 4 Plus is impressive with its inputs and outputs and mixer overall. It is it is something to behold.
The zone out.
It
oh
really
my God,
is.
the zone out on that. Oh, well,
yeah.
all right.
Playlist.
Doesn't have,
anyway.
well, it's just not about that. So, but if anyone's interested in seeing
here, and I'm gonna get too comfortable. That's
a robust mixer, yeah. I mean, the Prime 4 Plus is wow. All right, so Jake, you went through your top 5, and I think from what I've seen so far, I mean, this was launched officially about 3 weeks now, right?
Well, it's 25th, so whatever that. Yeah, we're 2 weeks,
Okay.
3 weeks. We're probably 3 weeks. Yeah.
3 weeks,
Yeah.
going fast. It's the summer now, so. And from what I've seen, we sold out very quickly. Everyone who has opened the box has been very happy with it so far. I'm hoping that they're tuning in, watching this, and finding that this is helpful. And for anyone that's on the fence, I as well hope that this was helpful to push you in one direction or the other. We're never looking to push, maybe the wrong word, but to inform and answer a question that might have had you on the fence. You know, I think that Serato question that we answered is definitely one that, you know, might hold people up. I think that, yeah, you don't have to be a performer, DJ, to buy this controller. And to add on what we discussed earlier, you know, I think there is a cost sometimes to not buying the thing we really want. When you buy a DJ controller that should probably live with you for 4, 5, 6 years or more. So my opinion is think about what you want to do in 3 years and buy that way. You know, don't always think about today's dollars and cents, because this is not something you're just going to have today, and buy what you think works best for you. That's always going to be our insight here from our perspective. What do you have to add, Jake?
I mean, get your hands on one and you'll know if it's for you or not. It's kind of one of those, you know, when you're in their arena, so to speak, when you're like that kind of DJ that maybe is a traditionalist, came from vinyl, and you're like, I've seen a lot of comments say this is my first controller, like old heads like me that are like, I've been on 1200s for years. This is the first controller I'm buying.
I don't know what that's like at all. I don't know what you're talking about, Jake. Stop calling me out, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, just try it out, like, and you'll know. And I'm confident in saying that because I mean, we're talking pre-production, way early unit, and I was like, it makes my job so much more fun when it's like, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, and that's immediately what I felt, because I'm really a snob when it comes to motorized platters and faders and up faders, because I am traditionalist, 2-channel mixer, 2 1200s, and good luck getting close to that feel is kind of like where I'm from. But then this thing nailed it. I'm like, ugh. And then I spend a lot of time, you know, I try to DJ every day just to like stay sharp. And also it's part of my job, which is great. I'm fortunate, blessed. But I find myself spending more time on the Performer than like the full setups, just because number one, it's the hot new thing and I got to be familiar with it, but it's just like so fun and I can do so much with it. So yeah, my advice, figure out a way to get your hands on one and spend 15 minutes with it. And I promise you'll know in the first 10 minutes whether it's coming home with you.
What do you got to add, Switch?
Not a lot, man. I love this thing.
Yes, I can get you a good deal on one. Don't worry. We'll get you a good deal. Don't worry.
We already kind of addressed all the reasons why I dig it. I like the idea of being able to have the option of performing analog or performing digital and not having to compromise, not having to choose one or the other. Like, that's so big for me. And I think that, you know, for a lot of folks that are coming from the old days, coming from the turntables, you know, so like there's some of us out there that are still spinning that think about the old days when their mixers had Vestax on it. Some of the real old heads had mixers that said Techniques on it, right? Like, no matter how far back you go, turntablism is so rooted in the culture of what we do, and so rooted in the in what sort of informs the functionality of all the modern equipment, that having a device like this that makes no compromises, that gives you that turntable feel, gives you the strobe dots on the side of the platters, gives you the comfortable up faders that allow you to actually perform the way you always used to be able to on the old equipment, like that for me tells me that this is a device that's made by people who care about DJing, care about the culture, care about where it came from and where it's going. And I'm super excited to see how fast I can get my hands on one. It might be a minute because I have a mortgage. But as you know, as we always used to talk about, Justin, when you and I were doing these streams a little more often a couple of years ago, you know, the thing about investing in a piece of gear like this is it's not about how much money is it going to cost you. It's how much money can you make with it. And that I look at something like this and I go, all of a sudden I have one piece of gear. Again, instead of spending $3,000 on two pieces of gear, I can spend $1,000 less on one piece of gear that can serve both functions and can make me way more money. And so, like, just from an investment and business perspective, there's just nothing about this that every single step of this is like a no-brainer to me. Like, I absolutely love this thing.
What do you guys think about this statement? The Rane Performer is a musical instrument.
Yeah. I would say turntables in the proper hands are a musical instrument. So I'd say definitely the Performer, because it has in addition to being able to recreate the things you could do with, you know, a crossfader and a turntable, you can add effects and stem split, and now you have tone generators and all kinds of stuff. So I think it's just like a saxophone. I can't play saxophone. Would not be considered an instrument if I played it, but if Mr. DJ Switch PDX over there played a saxophone, that was it, right? That was your instrument? Saxophone? Yes, yeah. It would be like, wow, that's an instrument. With me, it'd be like, what is this doorstop that this guy's holding? You know, but yeah, it's in capable hands. It's amazing. I am waiting to see, and we're rolling out a bunch of content from, you know, top tier performance DJs. We just had a DJ Ease video we posted last week where he's really putting it through his paces. We have a few more in store where you're going to see these artists, and there are artists, you know, they're not just button pushers. Like, these are artists, and you'll see that the Performer is an instrument for performers. That's why it's called that. So that's my soapbox. Thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk on the Rane Performer.
I actually have a question that I haven't seen addressed, because I watched, you know, I've been excited about this thing just like everybody else. I watched the launch stream that you did with Terry and Mojax and them. I watched, and then I actually stuck around for Pearlie's performance, which was incredible. My one last question for you. What do you think it will take to see something like this in a Red Bull competition or a DMC thing? Like, are we going to start seeing controllers? Is this the kind of controller that we're going to need to see real performances and real competition happen?
With a controller, I think, yeah, but I've seen controllers in competitions as far as entry videos. I don't know if I've seen one on the main stage, and that'd probably be a lot of other negotiations involved for that too. But like, yeah, this controller, I don't see, you know, fun fact on that. I'm not just, this is totally true. I'm not just giving you marketing speak, but for the launch video, I had DJ Immortal. I'm in Tampa, and I had DJ Immortal and DJ Knockers, both Florida guys, also come up to Tampa, and we filmed it down at the Crowbar in Ybor City. And so I sent DJ Immortal, he's the one in the launch video. I sent him a unit ahead of time, and I said, hey, yeah, here's what we're looking for. We need to come up with something. And then DJ Knockers, they came up like the day before, and I gave them a unit in the hotel room so they could still keep practicing and stuff like that. They both said that they're able to just go ahead and like pull off their DMC routines. Like, their winning routines. Both are DMC US champions, and they're able to just to do their like roll up and like, oh, I was able to do my routine, no problem. So that to me means if they could do it like 5 minutes and do their routine after I showed them, yeah, you can adjust the up faders, and here's how you do slip rings. And they're like, okay, no problem. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Like, to me, that's a true testament to the kind of like the true turntablist feel and just the grassroots of the Performer, kind of like not skimping when it came to just like down and dirty 2 decks and a crossfader stuff.
Yeah, man.
That says a lot. That really does, because I think feel and comfortability is one of the big things for me as a DJ. I can't speak for anyone else, but I seem to think that it applies to a lot of other DJs where you want to feel comfortable. So that says a whole heck of a lot to me, where they could just jump onto this thing for the first time and feel comfortable. Wow.
And I will say one thing, like DJ Immortal, that launch video, if you haven't watched the full like 2+ minute video, watch that, because he kills it. And the thing that like really impressed me, I want to give him a big shout out, and Knockers, because we did a lot of filming that day. But man, we did that routine so many times, and I think that's what separates like a pretty good DJ from like a champion DJ. He was flawless all day, and he did that routine. We were there 8 hours. That's like, okay, yeah, come back. And it's like, 3-click flare, blah, 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 like, oh, and it's just like clean, and it's just like he's a perfectionist, he's a professional, and it's just like consistent, like. Yeah, so a big shout out to those guys for helping, but I was just truly impressed by like just the level of caliber of these DJs.
It is something to see when you and even as a DJ who knows what's going on and understands how these things happen. There are sometimes I watch guys like you're talking about or girls, and I'm like, how did they do that?
It's insane,
and it's talent, and I admire anyone that really invests in that craft so much. It doesn't happen by accident. That's for sure.
And a case in point, we were talking about Pearly on the live stream. She did body tricks on it.
Body tricks. I literally was just thinking that, dude.
She did like the whole crossfader back thing on a controller. Like
it was insane.
Yeah. Try that on some other controllers, snap in half. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's impressive.
Do you have anything else you want to add, Jake, while we have you here? We've taken up so much of your time already.
Oh, no. I didn't know that worked on Teams or on StreamYard. I just thumbs up.
That was you?
Yeah. Look at that.
Look at you. You're like, it's like Inception. You got your own level of effects here.
Yeah, that's great.
Are those Serato? Are you using Serato effects there?
Yeah, mixed emergency.
Right.
These are built into the Mac. Yeah, you should see the number of meetings.
Now.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna. I do it.
Yeah, you might not be able to. Like I'll be in a meeting, clicking my pen, and they'll be like, "We really need to do this. This is horrible." And then it goes, "Boop, thumbs up from Jake." I'm like, "No, I didn't mean to thumbs up that." But anyway,
all right.
Sorry. Last words. Like I said before, get your hands on it. You'll know. That's the one thing you're gonna know as soon as you spend any time on it. And if you're like, you know what, it's not for me, at least you'll know. But depending on where you come from and the style of DJ and what you like to do with it, you'll know. And it's kind of like we were talking about, it's an investment. To me, when I was doing a lot of gigs, like I wanted to enjoy my gig. Like I wouldn't show up to a gig with like a piece of equipment. Like if they're like, no, you just have to mix with a laptop the whole time, I'd be like, I don't want to do this gig. This is like not fun for me. So part of it too is enjoying getting paid. That's great, but also enjoying yourself at the gig. And that's to me, like that intrinsic value of DJing is why I would get something like the Performer, because I want to have fun while I'm doing it, because that's the whole point, and the money. But I want to have both. And so just try it out. You'll know. Order one from Justin when you get stock, and you'll know.
I had to play out of my headphone jack on my laptop because of a firmware problem with the mixer when I played Hip Hop Week in Portland on the steps of City Hall. So like they erected a stage on the steps of City Hall, and I go up there and everything's not working because of a firmware problem, and so I had to do the laptop thing, man. It was awful.
Yeah, just like checking your email for 3 hours. It's no fun.
Right.
Jake, I want to thank you again for coming on with us. Really do appreciate these fleeting meetings that we have on virtual live streams, talking about these amazing controllers you guys keep coming out with at InMUSIC and Rane and all. And it's exciting for us, and I really do appreciate you coming on. Switch, thank you so much for joining us today. And most importantly, I want to say thank you to the audience for watching and tuning in and engaging with us and asking questions. If you're watching this on the replay, feel free to comment, ask any questions. We'll be following these for the next however many years, answering questions. This will be an evergreen piece of content. So please feel free to leave any comments, and we're happy to do that. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. Any final words, Jake?
Nope. Thank you so much for having me. Let's do it again soon. And yeah, if you have questions, hit us up on our social channels. Hit up Justin, and we'll chime in. We'll be connected so we can answer your questions.
It was great to meet
Switch.
you, man.
Yeah, you too. Let's do it again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one. Don't forget, we'll be back with DJ Switch on the Mastering the Art of Music Discovery. Very important thing that I think needs to be addressed, and we're going to talk about that next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern moving forward. You can catch us here at the DJ's Guru on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you soon, all right? We'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.